The man couldn't stop thinking about his ex-wife with another man. The thought burned inside him, filling him with anger and desperation. He grabbed his phone, needing answers, and called her. His ex-wife's phone rang. She didn't even have to look, she already knew. The man with her asked who it was, but she stayed silent. Taking a deep breath, she picked up. The man's voice hit her instantly, slurred, bitter, barely holding it together. He scoffed at her choice, saying he didn't approve of the man she was with. How could she go from him to someone like that? Then came the accusations, cheating, betrayal. The woman stood frozen, listening. She didn't fight back. She didn't explain. She just let his words wash over her, closing her eyes, pulling her back to the moment when it all began, the moment their love started to fall apart not too long ago when... The woman practiced her words over and over. She was going to tell her husband the good news. She was pregnant. He was going to be a father. This was supposed to be a special day. But when she arrived at his door, a guard stood there. Her husband had ordered that she stay outside. The hurt was immediate, but before she could question it, the guard casually mentioned that her husband also wanted his special chicken soup. He feared he was coming down with a cold. A cold. That was all he cared about. At that moment, all she could think about was the man who got her into this messy relationship, her husband's father. While making his soup, the woman remembered the night her husband's father begged her to marry his son on his deathbed. His son had loved her best friend, but his father saw through her best friend. He had confronted her, offering her a blank check to leave his son forever. Without hesitation, she took the money and abandoned his son. The woman had known that her husband would never forgive his father if he learned the truth. She had agreed to the marriage, hoping that one day he would also love her, hoping he would change, but he never did. The woman's husband never treated her like a wife. When his father passed, he had finally agreed to marry the woman, but only under his own cruel terms that the woman would give him a child, and in return she would have the comforts of his wealth, but she would never have his love. For years she had endured the pain. She had suffered in silence. She had watched him bring women into their home, and now the worst has happened. The woman saw her ex-best friend stepping out of her husband's bedroom, confident, smug. The woman thought of the time when she used to be her best friend, and when the woman told her that she had a crush on her now husband and was planning to ask him out, her best friend seduced him before she could confess her feelings to him. And now her ex-best friend was back. She had tolerated many things, but not this, not her. Her husband reminded her of their arrangement. She was nothing more than the mother of his future child. But she had failed at that. The woman had tried and tried, but the miscarriages had broken her while her husband was having multiple affairs. And now he told her that her ex-best friend was pregnant. He had reconnected with her while in Europe, and she had given him what the woman could not. He had no further use for her. He wanted her ex-best friend, who was his now girlfriend, to move in. The woman felt something snap inside her. He had taken everything from her, and she gave everything to him without any hesitation. In a moment of defiance, the woman declared that she would no longer be his obedient wife. She demanded that his new girlfriend leave or she would. Her husband, taken aback, offered her money and mansions to leave, but the woman didn't want that. She wanted the house they had shared, the house that she promised her husband's father that it'll never fall into the wrong hands, especially not his son's. She made her demand. His new girlfriend protested, but her husband silenced her. The woman had been loyal for years, and if she wanted the house, she could have it. His girlfriend would get him. That should have been enough. But his girlfriend wasn't happy. She wanted the house too. The woman's husband dismissed her complaints. He had given his word. Later that day, the divorce papers arrived. The woman's husband was caught off guard. How had she prepared them so quickly? He hesitated. He needed time to read them. The woman agreed and gave him until the next day. He and his girlfriend had to be out by then. His girlfriend was hungry, so the man demanded the soup his wife had made. But his wife, having had enough, turned to the housekeeper and told her to take the meal home to her family instead. Furious, her husband confronted her, but she stood her ground. She was no longer his obedient wife. He had mistreated her for too long. Now she was done. The man ordered soup for his girlfriend, but she complained and whined, but he didn't care. Something about losing his wife forever unsettled him in ways he couldn't explain. He barely touched his food. He didn't understand why, but he found himself craving something else, his wife's cooking. Her warmth. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had made a mistake. Later at night, he found himself in his wife's room. He wanted her, just for one night. And despite everything, she wanted him too. The next morning, the woman woke up, ashamed of her weakness. But there was no time for regret. She had to leave. She had to be free. She had to finalize the divorce. His girlfriend was waiting for her, smug and confident. She told the woman she would never take the man away from her. The woman only smiled. She didn't want him. But before she left, she made sure her husband's girlfriend knew the truth. The woman knew about the money she had taken from her husband's father. The woman knew she had sold her husband out for a price before. At the courthouse, the final moment arrived. The husband hesitated for just a second. The woman did not. She signed the papers, and in an instant their marriage was over. Her now ex-husband stood there and told her that he had never meant to mistreat her. The woman told him that it was too late for that and wished him the best with his girlfriend. As she walked away, free for the first time in years, she saw him watching her. His gaze darkened when a car pulled up. A man stepped out, opening the door for the woman. The man's hands clenched into fists. Who was he? Jealousy burned through him. She was his wife. No, not anymore. But still, the thought of another man taking his place so soon unsettled him. He wanted answers, and for the first time, he felt something he never thought he would. Regret. He ordered to follow her car. On the other hand, the woman was relieved to see her brother and thanked him for picking her up. It was finally over. Her divorce from her husband was official. Her brother was happy for her, but also skeptical. He never understood why she married him in the first place. The woman had made a promise to her now ex-husband's dying father to stay with him, but that promise had cost her so much. Yet, she had gained something valuable, the Taylor mansion. The man's father had left it to her in his will, not wanting it to fall into the wrong hands. Her brother urged her to cut all ties with him, but the woman wasn't sure if she could. She placed a protective hand on her belly. She was carrying her ex-husband's child, and he didn't know. Her brother suggested grabbing lunch and meeting someone important. Meanwhile, the woman's ex-husband was desperate to uncover the woman's new relationship. To create a cover, he called his mistress and asked her to meet him at a restaurant. He needed her presence as an excuse to be there. At the restaurant, the woman and her brother were catching up. Just then, her ex-best friend appeared. The sight of her made the woman furious. The ex-best friend mocked the woman for moving on too quickly, but the woman held her ground, throwing the ex-best friend off guard. Her ex-husband arrived, bitterness evident in his words. He couldn't stand how confident his ex-wife had become. Seeing her with other men made his blood boil, and he told her brother that she can't have kids to insult her further. Then a new figure entered the picture, a handsome and successful-looking man. The man was polite, but the ex-husband saw him as just another rival, but the man dismissed him. The man proposed a deal to the woman to help her turn the mansion into a profitable business. The woman was skeptical, but intrigued. She agreed to hear more at a private meeting. Later, her brother took her home, where she finally told her family about her divorce and pregnancy. Her father, a successful businessman, was proud of her for leaving her husband. Her sister was furious about her ex-best friend's involvement, but the family rallied around the woman, offering her a place to stay and a fresh start at a new home that her brother had designed for her. Her brother reminded her of the next day's doctor's appointment for her pregnancy. The next day at the hospital, the doctor shared that the woman and her child are happy and healthy. She asked about the father's situation, to which the woman told her that the father was no longer involved and that she had the support of her family. As she left the hospital, she heard her ex-husband calling her name. He approached with a mix of curiosity and concern, commenting on her appearance. The woman quickly deflected, saying she was there for routine tests. She knew her ex-husband had a reputation for being unfaithful, and she wanted to keep him from guessing the truth. Her ex-husband, however, was suspicious. He accused her of checking for STDs, hinting that she might be seeing someone else. The woman felt her heart race as he pulled her closer, demanding to know if she was pregnant. Panic surged through her, and just as she was about to respond, her brother arrived to intervene. The tension escalated as her ex-husband and brother exchanged harsh words. Her ex-husband, still reeling from his recent divorce, lashed out, blaming the woman for his problems. Her brother stood up for his sister, reminding her ex-husband of his failures. The woman felt trapped between the two men, urging her brother to get going. Later, the woman's ex-husband met with his new girlfriend at the hospital. He had been trying to distract himself from thoughts of his ex-wife, but it was clear he was still haunted by her. His girlfriend, eager for his attention, tried to engage him, but he was distant. After leaving the hospital, in the car, the man was restless, his mind racing with thoughts of his ex-wife. His girlfriend, sitting beside him, felt the tension. She was frustrated that he was still so focused on his ex-wife, especially since she was carrying his child. She wished they could move on from her once and for all. The man, however, was troubled. He had concerns that his ex-wife might be pregnant with his child. He couldn't shake the feeling that whoever she was dating was only after his money. His girlfriend pointed out that his ex-wife was playing mind games with him, making him doubt himself. But the man snapped back, telling his girlfriend to be quiet and just look pretty, as if that was all she was good for. He often used physical affection as a way to keep his girlfriend close, but right now he was too preoccupied with thoughts of his ex-wife. His girlfriend insisted they needed to show his ex-wife that they wouldn't be pushed around, but the man told her that he needed to handle things with his ex-wife himself. He didn't want his girlfriend interfering and asked her to get out of the car, while the man instructed the driver to take him to Boyd's pub, where he hoped to gather more information about his ex-wife from his doctor friend. At home, the man's girlfriend received a call from her mother, who was worried about her reputation. She had heard rumors about her boyfriend and wanted to know what was going on. The girlfriend lied, trying to keep her mother from finding out about the shady dealings with her boyfriend's family. Her mother warned her not to get involved in anything illegal, but the girlfriend brushed it off. After hanging up, she received another call, this time from her father. He was angry, asking why she seemed uninterested in their plan to get rich. She tried to explain that there had been a problem with the doctor they hired to cover for her fake pregnancy as she was moving away, and they needed another plan to hide the truth that she was not pregnant at all and was lying to take over her boyfriend's property and mansion. Her father insisted she keep sleeping with her boyfriend and convince him to marry her to make their plan work. The girlfriend felt a surge of determination. If her boyfriend missed his ex-wife, she would give him every reason to forget about her by seducing him. Meanwhile, the man was at the pub, drowning his thoughts in alcohol. He couldn't stop thinking about his ex-wife and the possibility that she was pregnant. He confided in his best friend about his suspicions. His friend warned him that trying to access his ex-wife's medical records would be illegal, but as his friend, he would help him. The man was desperate to know the truth. He felt a mix of anger and longing, unsure of what to do next. He couldn't shake the feeling that his ex-wife was hiding something important from him. As the man drank more, he decided to call his ex-wife. He wanted to confront her about her feelings and the truth behind their divorce. When his ex-wife answered, the man's words were laced with frustration. He couldn't believe she had moved on so quickly, especially with someone he deemed unattractive. The woman, feeling hurt by her ex-husband's accusations, reminded him that he had married her out of obligation, not love. She had left him because he had cheated on her. The conversation escalated, and the woman hung up. The call ended with the man feeling more humiliated than ever, and the woman was feeling a mix of anger and sadness. She had left him knowing she wasn't wanted, but his mixed signals made it hard for her to move on. Back at home, the girlfriend was frustrated with her boyfriend's drunken state. She had dressed up for him, hoping to seduce him and forget his ex-wife, but he was still lost in thoughts of his ex-wife. When the man drunkenly called out his ex-wife's name, as she was the only woman he could think of, his girlfriend was furious. She had done everything to win him, but he was still obsessed with his ex-wife.
Hey, I'm Sabrina. If you're wondering what happens next, download the Pocket FM app now and listen to the exciting episodes of Lose You to Love Me.